Hey, friends. Welcome to episode 49 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. I have to apologize for my voice. I wouldn't call it a cold, but I have like a raspy, like dry throat, like a cough. And so it is affecting my voice. If it sounds a little scratchy, that is why. But I'm super excited for today's episode. What I wanted to do today was do a little bit of a Q&A, and I got more questions than this, but I got four really good questions that I do think really kind of are great examples of things people ask me about. Okay, so let me just give you an overview of the questions we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the best way to get more toned arms. I'm going to give you my special formula for looking more toned. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to talk about how to juggle a busy life with your nutrition and workouts. We're going to talk about binge eating and all or nothing mindset and what to do with those trigger foods. And then we're also going to talk about being overwhelmed and being not doing too much too soon. Okay. So those are the four things we're going to be talking about today. And let's just go ahead and dive into the first one. So first question I have here is, I would like to know the best way to get toned muscles in my arms. I've been working on it, but I'm not sure what the best way is. I'm still not getting where I want to be. So I want to talk to you guys about my formula for looking more toned. And that formula is you need to lift like you want to build muscle and eat like you want to lose fat. Okay, so let me break this down for you. There's two things at play when it comes into wanting to look more quote unquote toned. Okay, that means you have to have the muscle there to look toned, right? If you don't have the arm muscles in this situation or the leg muscles, the whatever it is, the shoulders, if you don't have the muscle there, when you lose the fat, you're not going to look more toned. You're just going to look like a smaller version, right? And the second key is not having the fat over the muscle or not as much of it. Okay. So you might have some beautiful muscles. You probably do. You probably have some beautiful muscles under there, but you just have to lose a little bit of that fat that's covering it to showcase that muscle a little bit more, right? So can you guys understand how we have two parts to looking more toned? Now, what you need to focus on first is going to totally depend on the person. Can you lose fat and build muscle at the same time? Yes, some people can. Okay. If you are new to lifting, it's going to be much easier to do that. If you are new to proper nutrition, you're going to be able to do that easier. If you have recently just changed up kind of like your workout routine, let's say you used to do a lot of classes or HIIT style working out and you switch to more traditional strength training, you are going to be able to lose fat and put on muscle more likely than someone who has been doing this for years and years and years, right? For me, for example, I have been lifting since 1999, and I'd say I've been lifting properly for probably, gosh, what is it, 2024? I mean, at least 15 years, at least. Okay. Because I started competing in 2010 and I was lifting properly back then. So it's going to be hard for me personally to lose fat and build muscle at the same time. All right. Some people think that they're losing fat and building muscle at the same time because as they lose the fat, they look more muscular, but that's not necessarily that they're building muscle. They're just able to see that muscle more. Does that make sense? I want you to think about that. Okay. So back to the what you should work on first. It really depends on the person. Okay. But I found that more often than not, people do have the muscle under there, unless your genetics are more of like a ectomorphic, just like string bean, like just long and lean, really have a hard time putting on any muscle or shape. You might need to focus on building, but most people need to focus on fat loss in order to look more toned. Okay. So the reason why this person, and maybe you listening, might be spinning your wheels is because sometimes people, you'll see messages that are like, oh, you have to eat more to build muscle. You have to eat at maintenance or in a slight surplus. And that's true. But if you want to look more toned, you're not going to see the results from that until you move back into a deficit to lose the fat that's covering the muscle. Okay. So two things we're going to focus on. Tips for lifting. We're gonna talk about that. And we're talking about tips for eating. Okay. But I want to say first, don't get too hung up on the scale weight. Now you hear this a lot, but oftentimes you hear it in the opposite context that I'm going to explain to you right now. So oftentimes we think about not caring about the scale when it comes to focusing on weight loss, but your weight isn't dropping. You're like, oh, don't pay attention to the scale, right? We've all heard that. But the opposite is also true, because I hear people say all the time, oh, I don't want to lose weight. I just want to look more toned. Okay. And so people will just kind of, eat in a slight surplus or stay at maintenance and feel like they're not really seeing results. Now, you can look more toned and see body composition change at maintenance. You absolutely can, 100%. It just takes a very long time. I'm talking like years. Not 12 weeks, not 16 weeks, not even 20 weeks. I'm talking years, okay? And newbies to this kind of lifestyle will get more frustrated earlier, right? And they'll be like, oh, it's been 6 months and I don't see any change. Well, if you're doing the whole maintenance thing, it's going to take a lot longer than that, okay? So some people will say, I don't want to lose weight. I want to look more toned. Well, keep in mind that the look you want might not be the scale number you think it's going to be. Okay. And that goes in both directions. Like I said, it might mean to get the look you want, your scale weight needs to be a little lower than you thought. It could also be the opposite. To get the look you want, your scale weight is going to be a little higher than you thought. So the key here is not focusing too much on the scale, focusing more on the look that you're going for. Okay. So tips for lifting. If you are trying, this example here is getting more a toned look in your arms. So if your goal is that, I want you to not forget about your shoulders. Okay. A toned, rounded shoulders really give you that look of toned arms. So focusing on your biceps, triceps, and shoulders, all three heads of your shoulders, your anterior, medial, and rear delts are going to be super, super important here. I have tons of workouts online, you guys, for shoulders or for toned arms. Okay. So follow those, or if you have, but you want to have a good periodized program. So what that means is you don't want to just walk into the gym and just be doing whatever every single week. Okay. You need a good program that has good exercises for the muscles you're focusing on. And then you want to be consistent with that program over time. That means 6 to 12 weeks, guys, of doing the same thing with intensity and getting close to failure and hitting failure sometimes. So how do you know if you're hitting failure? Because a lot of times people will think that they're hitting failure, but they're really not. And so what does that look like? Okay. That looks like ugly faces. You are pushing so hard that you have to breathe through that. You cannot talk to your friend. You cannot scroll your phone during your set. You are making the ugly, strained faces. You might be grunting a little bit. You might be, just making the noises. Another way to think about it is doing partial reps. So you're going to keep on going until you can't finish a rep. So in a bicep curl, for example, you're going to lengthen your arm, bring that weight as close to the floor as you can, get a nice lengthened position through your bicep. And then let's say you can only lift that weight about halfway up. You can't do the full rep. Then you've hit failure. You're going to lift it about halfway up and you might be shaking and you can't possibly complete that rep. I encourage you to go to that point periodically, often, okay? Not every workout, not every exercise, definitely not every set, but periodically just to remind yourself what that feels like, okay? So intensity is going to be huge here, all right? You're not going to get that toned look if you're just going to the gym and chilling with your girlfriends. Okay, tips for eating. So for going back to the whole fat loss idea, right? Remember, lift like you want to build muscle, eat like you want to lose fat. Okay. So tips for eating, got to be in a calorie deficit. Okay. So like I said, sometimes you might be thinking, well, I don't want to lose weight, but to get more toned for most of us means lowering our body fat percentage, which means you got to be in a deficit. Okay. It can be a slight deficit, but you got to be in a deficit. All right. So it's just getting consistent with that deficit. So hopefully that helps you guys. Let's go on to number 2. Question number 2 is how to juggle a busy life with your nutrition and workouts. And I feel this one so much, guys. I've got 3 kids. Okay. 2 of them are adults. So maybe that doesn't count, but I remember what it feels like to be in the trenches with your little kids. I took all 3 of my kids to the gym daycare when they were little, before they were in school. And, I totally remember those days, and also the days when maybe they're in half-day kindergarten. I mean, full-day kindergarten is so much more popular nowadays than it was when my kids were in there 15 to 20 years ago. But you're trying to get your workout in and your errands and everything while the kids are in school. It's tough, right? I totally get it. Pretty much most of our clients, working with us are busy working moms as well. So we know how to do this. And you can get it all done. You just have to plan. You have to plan. And there's going to be weeks where maybe you can't get everything in because you have a crazy week, but doing something is better than nothing. I have been traveling a ton this year. Back to, I think, let's see, end of January to now, I've traveled. So like that's what, February, March, April, like 3 months. I've traveled, I think 6 times, maybe 7. And I got one more trip we're leaving tomorrow. And so all these weeks, I have not been able to get in all my workouts. I haven't, okay? But I've been able to get in 3 days of lifting instead of 4. Maybe if you currently work out 5 days, can you get in 3 on those busy weeks? Maybe you have cardio you're trying to do and you don't have time for it. Can you focus on steps throughout the day, right? So if you have a cardio session, maybe that's 20 minutes, right? That's approximately maybe 2,000 steps. Go on an extra 20-minute walk or get an extra 2,000 steps in throughout your day and call that good, okay? So I don't want you to focus or get too stressed on what you should be doing, on what is optimal, but something is better than nothing. Okay. So I want you to plan this all in advance. On Sunday nights, you're going to look at your week. You're going to say, okay, Monday is super crazy. I am going from like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's going to be a rest day, and I'm going to focus on getting as many steps as I possibly can. But maybe Tuesday, you don't have to be anywhere till 10 and you can get a workout in the morning. So it's just planning out your days in advance and not just taking every day as it comes and be like, oh crap, now it's Wednesday night and I haven't done anything as far as my workouts so far this week. So planning in advance is huge, okay? Nutrition. You asked for nutrition tips as well. So a couple ideas here. Grab and go foods. And they can be whole food. They should be whole foods. There's so many grab and go whole foods. For example, like berries and cottage cheese is a perfect snack. And it takes you, guys, like 60 seconds to put together. Okay. No excuses, right? You can whip up a Transform Meal Replacement Shake and grab some nuts. You can have, some beef jerky or a Chomps, one of those Chomps brand meat sticks, and some fruit. There are so many options you can have on hand that are like grab and go. So anyway, let me give you some more ideas. So protein. We got protein shakes. We got beef jerky. We got tuna packets. We've got deli meat is great. Hard-boiled eggs, all great options. For carbs, fruit is awesome. Rice cakes, they might sound diety, but get some cheddar ones, sure, get some caramel ones, whatever. They're great for grab and go and they're strictly carbs. Like I said, fruit is so great. Carbs often come, with some protein in, like there's healthy protein bars, like healthy eats on the go. I love those. They are whole food based, 200 calories. I do have a discount code there. Shameless plug. It's Trainer Lindsay. Just Google healthy eating on the go bars. That'll pop right up, but they're delicious. They taste like a G to G bar, whole food bar, but they're 200 calories instead of 300. So score. Yeah, things like that. So fats, we got nuts, peanut butter packets, avocado. You can't really like bring that on the go. Maybe you could, but they're super easy to just have on hand. You could salt it, eat it straight out of the peel. So delicious. So there's so many options, okay? And don't forget about meal prep, guys. Meal prep, it can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. A couple ways you can do this is on Sundays, you can just meal prep maybe your lunches for the week and one snack. That's going to make your life so much easier and it's not going to feel super overwhelming when you're just focusing on 2 things, okay? You choose your lunch for the week, you meal prep it. Maybe it's a whole bunch of rice, a whole bunch of grilled chicken, some chopped up veggies, maybe a little cheese on top or avocado, whatever. Put that all together on Sunday and it's going to make your life so much easier to have that done. Then maybe you have one snack that you're going to have prepped as well. And then you have another snack during the day that's a grab and go. That is going to take off, I don't know, like what, 60% of your food decisions each day that you have already made that are already done, okay? Another way is to, every dinner you make, double it. So you have leftovers for the next day and you can have that same meal again for lunch tomorrow, okay? So hopefully those tips that help you there. Let's move on to question number 3. I loved your podcast about binge eating. I've struggled my entire life with the all or nothing mindset and completely falling into a rabbit hole if I have a treat. It sometimes leads to a complete binge meal, day, week. So any information to help with those situations and the self-shame that's felt afterwards is helpful. I do want to start by saying here, it would be irresponsible of me not to say, if this is true binge eating disorder, please seek out the help of a therapist. Okay. True therapy type of things is out of my scope 100%. But I'll give you a few tips here just from things that we implement in the coaching situation. But like I said, talking through this with either a mindset coach, a life coach. I have an incredible life coach. If you want her information, she's a mindset coach and a habit coach. She's so good. Just DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I can send you her info. But yeah, so a couple tips here. Isolate the food. What is your main trigger food? Let's use like Oreos, for example. Okay. So it's easy to say like, oh, I'm never going to buy Oreos. Just never buy them, never keep them in the house. And that might be what you need to do. Okay. But let me give you another idea. Okay. If you really want to work on this and be like, well, I don't want to always be afraid of Oreos. I don't want to be like, I can't ever have those foods in the house. Something that you can do is figure out what that food is, number one. Okay. And then make sure you include that food every single day in your day-to-day diet, but in single serving portions. Okay. So instead of buying a big container of Oreos, buy the little it's like a 4-pack or a 2-pack, right? That are single serving. What that's going to do is it's going to keep you from reaching for cookie after cookie after cookie, right? Because you have to actually make a conscious decision to open up the package and eat the cookies. And then when you finish those one or two that's in there, the one serving, you have to go back and get more. So it's adding thinking to what might otherwise be like a unconscious motion, right? So excuse me. So isolating the food and then including it in single serving portions. So peanut butter is another one that can be tricky for some people, and they sell single serving peanut butter packets, right? Buy those for a while until you start to trust yourself, and it will get easier. Okay. And then when you have those, keep them out of sight, out of mind, right? So maybe you have the single serving Oreos, but you keep them on the top shelf. So when you do truly want them on a day-to-day basis, you can pull them out and have a single serving and then move on with your day. Okay. Another idea. So, making cookies with your kids. I remember this was something that I really wanted to be able to experience without eating tons of dough or 10 cookies, right? So this is going to be something that comes with practice as well. I want you to practice in a controlled environment. Okay. So you can say, hey kids, let's make cookies. Let's do it right now, or let's do it this afternoon. Make sure you're not hungry and make sure you are your mouth is distracted. Maybe you're chewing some gum. Maybe you're sipping on a drink that you love, like a Diet Coke, or maybe you have a yummy protein shake or a smoothie that you're sipping on that kind of fills you up. And then that's going to help you not want to munch. If you make the cookies when you're starving, you're going to start munching. You're going to feel guilty afterwards. You're going to just not have the experience you're hoping for. So make sure you're not hungry. And make sure your mouth is busy, either with some gum or with a drink that you love. Okay. And then you can have one cookie. Maybe you have like 2 bites of the dough if you're into that, because I don't know if I should endorse eating raw cookie dough, but whatever. Maybe you have like a couple bites of the dough and 1 cookie, and then you celebrate that. That's the key. Being like, holy cow, I just did that. Tell somebody, be excited about it, because that little moment of celebration is going to reinforce those positive habits. Okay. And the more you practice this moderation, the easier it gets. All right. Now let's talk about the self-shame that you mentioned. This is a big one that, you might want to consider talking to a professional about, whether that's a mindset coach, a life coach, a therapist, but giving yourself grace is key here. Okay. And I know it's easier said than done, but my one thought here is that when you punish yourself with more cardio, less food, a day of under eating to quote unquote even it all out, it never works that way. Pro tip. All you're doing is reinforcing the guilt and the shame. Okay. If you think, oh, I ate this, and so now I have to do this to quote unquote make up for it, you're reinforcing those negative mindset patterns and those habits. Okay. So what I want you to do is be like, no big deal. I ate that yesterday. That's fine. Move on. Just get back on track with your healthy habits. And the more you practice this, the easier it's going to get. I promise. Okay. All right. Last question I want to talk through. And that is, they say that by doing too much too soon, you get overwhelmed and quit. Well, how do you keep from being overwhelmed and maintain consistency when you're not seeing results? So I love this. I think there's a few different topics in here, okay? Number one, how do you keep from being overwhelmed? Let's address that one first. So what I want you to do, we do this a lot in our coaching programs, okay? When clients come, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. This is too much. We say, okay, let's break it down. Okay, I want to know, what is one small thing that you can focus on this week that feels doable? Okay. And when that gets easy, I want you to add another thing. And when those two get easy, I want you to add another thing and continue to do this as long as it still feels doable. Because you guys, you have to feel successful in order to be consistent and in order to continue having fun. So if it starts to feel overwhelming again, whether that's because maybe you added something too soon, or maybe that's because your life got a little crazy for a minute, all you're going to do is just back it back down, okay? Cut back to, okay, what are 1 to 2 things you can focus on that won't feel overwhelming? Chances are, if you're comparing that to the first time you asked yourself those questions, some of those first key habits you worked on will feel like no-brainers now. They'll feel like just part of your lifestyle, right? So cut back to 1 to 2 things. Now, I want to touch on this feeling of overwhelm as well. I heard this on the Mindset Mentor podcast by Rob Dial. Oh my gosh, that podcast is fantastic, guys. You should listen to it. But he was talking about, oftentimes people feel like overwhelm is that they are doing too much, right? But he has another idea. He says that overwhelm can actually happen when you're not doing enough of the things you love. What do you guys think about that? Interesting, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I would cut back, but also focus on, what am I doing for me that I truly enjoy? Maybe your whole day is like, the kids have to go here, my family needs dinner, I have to do this and that for work or whatever. And I'm doing this workout program and this nutrition program for me, but maybe it feels hard and it just doesn't feel that enjoyable quite yet. Okay, so what are you doing for you that you enjoy? Maybe that's going out on walks every day in the sun. Maybe it's not. Maybe that still feels like, oh, that's just part of my plan. I have to do it. Maybe it is getting a massage often. Maybe it is taking 15 minutes a night and reading your favorite book. What are things you can do for you, and see if that helps you feel less overwhelmed, okay? Second topic here was, how do you maintain consistency when you're not seeing results? Now, I think this really comes down to your motive of why you're doing this. Are you only doing this for results? Because if so, it's going to be really hard to keep going when you're not seeing the results. And I can promise you, you will have times when you're not seeing the results. You 100% will. Okay. So I want you to think about, why else would you be doing this? And this can be whatever it is you're doing, right? This person says, how do you maintain consistency? So whatever it is you're trying to do, maybe that's, your healthy eating, your exercise, that kind of thing. Why else would you be doing those things if it wasn't for results? Okay, I want you to think about that. Maybe journal on it a little bit. Do you have health conditions in your family that you're trying to avoid getting? What are some other non-scale victories you're feeling that don't have to do with those results? Maybe you're more patient with your kids when you get your workout in. Maybe you have better energy throughout the day when you get a healthy breakfast. Focus on those reasons why you're doing the things, okay? Because the results will come. They just might not come as fast as you want them to, right? So I totally know how this feels, guys. When I was going through my year of gaining like 50 pounds, I remember somebody stopped me at the gym and she was like, I've seen your story on social media. Like, I don't know how you keep doing it. How do you keep showing up? And I thought about that. I was like, I mean, of course I'm going to keep showing up. Like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Just like stop lifting and stop eating healthy and stop doing all the things that I know to do? Like, no, that's who I am. So you have to do the things because it's who you are. It's your identity, right? Maybe you call it habits. Maybe you call it discipline with your habits, but it needs to be who you are. You have to be the person who gets their workout in, who makes the healthy food choices. Does that mean you have to do it 100% of the time? No, of course not. But you have to be the person who does that on a consistent basis without thinking about it and without tying it to any results that you're hoping to get. Okay. You can always manipulate what you're doing in order to see better results, or a coach can at least. If you're stuck, reach out to me. I'd love to hook you up with our coaching team. They're absolutely fantastic, best in the business, hands down. But what you're doing, the follow through, has to be independent of the results if you are going to be consistent forever. So, anyways, guys, those are my thoughts on those 4 questions. I hope you guys enjoyed those. And yeah, we are coming up on a year of this podcast. Is that absolutely insane? It is. It is to me. We're going to plan something fun. I don't know what. Maybe some sort of a happy birthday, Nourish and Strengthen party podcast. I don't know what. But anyways, guys, so great to chat with you guys today. And let me know if you guys have any questions you want me to answer on the podcast. I'd love to do another one of these Q&A episodes. Okay, talk to you guys soon.